I think it's important for you to be able to create something, capture the value, then use the value they capture to start something else, close a chapter, and not be too attached to it.
What do you like about small teams?
Do you play football?
Yes.
Do you know when you can do a pass and you don't need to look?
Yes.
And you know the person's going to be there?
Yes.
For me, it's that.
It's like that.
The time is now. It's one of the reasons why we decided to do a venture studio. We are a startup that creates startups. Yeah, this is really cool, but my issue is all unanswered calls. How do I know who to reply? Can you solve this for me? Figma is not source of truth. It's just a communication. It's a way for us to communicate what we want to achieve here. The source of truth is whatever is committed to code and people are using it. That's the source of truth. The value that you can extract from AI, especially for companies, it's going to come from good user experience, good design, what problems are you solving with it. When you find the need being there, I think it's a really good signal of, all right, there's something here that we should investigate further. Because there's a lot of people currently, they are incentivized for those inefficiencies to exist. Build something people want that solves a problem and get as many as people you can to pay as much and as often they can for that thing is what you should do. Don't be afraid to start right now because tomorrow might be too late.
Welcome to the Melding Muse podcast. Melding art and design, entrepreneurship, music, fashion, film, sports, gaming, and whatever's in between. We exist to showcase extraordinary people to inspire the next generation of creatives and leaders. My guest today is Lucas Coelho, husband, designer, entrepreneur, product strategist, and co-founder of RYFT Ventures. We talked about falling in love with design, the beginning and end of Rome Digital, and the process of creating multiple AI-driven products with his new venture studio. We discussed the future of AI tech and a lot more. If you're a designer, product enthusiast, or a tech entrepreneur, this episode is for you. Lucas Coelho, welcome to the Melding Muse podcast. How are you doing, my bro?
Doing good.
Man, so happy to have you here. And again, so nice to meet you. Like I was saying to you, first Brazilian in the podcast. That checked.
Let's go. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool. And
then nice ice cold beer.
Yeah, nice cold beer.
Awesome setup.
Before we started, we realized we're both metalheads. We're both into metal. So that's just always a good way to, know what's up. I want to start the conversation with you mainly around your background, on your story from where you started to where you are now, so that people that don't know who you are kind of get a good view of your experience and what you've been doing and all of that. So let's start with that. Talk about early beginnings, how you started from Brazil, when you came here, how's your path been from the beginning until what you're doing now?
I'm from Brazil, a city close to São Paulo, like 2 hours away from São Paulo. There's like 30,000 people in the city. Its name's Aparecida. Actually, it's funny. It has the second largest Catholic church in the world. The first being the Vatican.
The Vatican, yeah.
Yeah, which is insane. Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot of people in Brazil. People don't realize it's a huge country. So I'm not surprised about that, though.
It is huge, but it's a funny thing because it's a city that it's 35,000 people. During the week, during the weekends, you have 100, 200, 300,000 people going to visit.
Yeah,
and a lot of the things around the city revolve around sort of the religious sort of aspects of it, right? So
interesting.
A lot of religious tourism and whatnot. But my parents, of course, always worked with that, and since early on, I went to work with them since I remember, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're super hardworking. They used to have a store there and take me to work. My dad always liked to spend money with computers.
Okay.
It was a thing that probably him and mom fought quite a bit about that. Yeah. Because I didn't have a lot of money growing up. And a lot of times I remember he coming back and just like borrow money and got like a 386 computer or something like that.
Oh, I see.
And then I remember having a Pentium 2 computer, and that's when...
Wow, that's early stuff.
Yeah, that's early stuff.
Wow.
It's funny because we have the same references because we're both from the 90s. So 90s. We probably have the same references of, of the technology growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when he arrived with the Pentium 2, I was about probably 10, 12 years old.
Okay.
And he had a Pirate, of course, copy of CorelDRAW.
Yeah.
And one from Print Artist, I think.
Right.
It's the name of the software. I don't even remember who used to do that. And then he was like, here's for you to learn how to do flyers and stuff, like print stuff for the store, right? So we remember start doing some, how do you call it? Sort of the page markers with saints on them and a couple of sort of like prayers and for him to have at the store, or a couple of things for advertisement in the store. That's how we started playing a lot with design and computers.
I see.
I used to be very interested in pulling apart computers.
Dude, we are exactly the same. I'm hearing you telling this.
Yeah.
I went through exactly the same thing, man. It's incredible. Yeah, same for me, man. Like when I grew up, same thing. But the difference is my mom bought a computer. And as soon as I saw the thing in my house, I'm like, wow, what is this? And I became obsessed with it. And video games was one of those things.
Yeah.
And funny enough, you just mentioned about pulling computers apart. The reason why I learned how to put a computer apart was because my mom would take out the CD drive from the computer so I couldn't play video games because I used to be really terrible at school because I used to just be in the computer all day. So my mom was like, you know what I'm going to do? He bought some tech guys like, how do I stop this guy from playing video games? The guy's like, oh, just take the CD drive out, right? And then he won't be able to put the CD on. Again, this is all pirated CDs that you got from the stores and stuff. So then I found where my mom was hitting the drive. And then so when she wasn't there, I grabbed the drive and I had to figure out how to connect that thing. Because obviously, if you see a computer like back then, it's like, where do I plug this?
Yeah.
So doing that many times over, suddenly I know how to put a computer together. And then the same thing, this guy gave me a CD with a bunch of programs on it. CorelDRAW was on it. And that's how it started for me as well with design. So man, mirroring right there.
Yeah, it's funny. And I'm sure like a lot of people at that time, the pirate software was the only way to get software, I think.
Yeah.
Especially
in South America.
Especially South America.
Yeah.
I always remember I was chatting with someone yesterday, interviewing a software engineer and born at sort of like the same era as us. And we were talking about video games. And then we started remembering like, I remember when you used to go to I'm not sure if it was the same with you growing up, but we used to go in Brazil, we used to go to this sort of like not street markets, but they kind of look like street markets, but they're actually sheltered.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of like, but small shops.
Small shops, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And then to buy sort of games for the PlayStation or for computer.
Yeah.
And they're all in plastic, all pirate, like the green media, almost transparent CDs.
Yes.
And you used to go, you buy 3 for 10 reais. Sometimes it was like 5 for 10 reais, super cheap.
Yeah.
And maybe 1 or 2 would work.
Yeah. yeah.
But it was awesome. Like, all with the name written with a Sharpie, Tomb Raider and stuff, what kind of game it was. And software used to be like that as well.
Yeah. In South America, all the PlayStations and all those consoles, especially the early ones, I remember up until PlayStation 3, you could put just, they hacked them and then you could put pirated games on it.
Yeah.
Not like here. I remember when I got here, I'm like, okay, so I bought an Xbox. I remember the first console I bought. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a game. And then I saw the prices of the games. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's like, where can I get the other games? Like, no. That's it. That's how it is.
I remember
growing up, that didn't exist. You didn't buy anything original.
No, and I remember the market was so insane, especially when PlayStation 2 and 3 arrived. We had something that was the cheap ones, the green media, and we have the close to original games. There's like a golden sort of media.
Oh, I didn't know this.
No, yeah, in Brazil we have it's like a good replica, sort of like a style game. And it was like, you can see the print was like pressed and it was like a good media, usually golden, sort of at the bottom, or you could see like it was a good quality, but it's still not original.
Anyway, sorry to deviate there.
Yeah, sorry.
As soon as you said that, I'm like, man, I was exactly the same. So CorelDRAW, let's go back to that. So you started doing your designs with the software and that.
Yeah, pulling apart computers to the point that when I was like 14, my dad paid me a hardware course to learn how to open up computers. There's a little bit of programming in there, which was cool. So we started learning a little bit about Dreamweaver, went to like a computer sort of school. And then I started doing a lot of work to fix computers. Yeah. I remember I used to have the boot drives and then do all the sort of thing, format people's computers, and then playing a little bit with Dreamweaver. It was like early days of the internet.
Yeah,
Flash, Macromedia Flash, do animations and stuff.
Yeah.
And since then I went to a technical high school that was more mechanical, mechatronic focus. And then from there, I decided to go to engineering school. It was a mechanical engineering school.
Oh, okay.
But at that time, I already knew how to do things with the web, right? So it was never stopped doing something around the so with Dreamweaver and with Fireworks to this day, one of my favorite pieces of software too.
Yeah. Only the OGs know about that.
Maybe it was actually pretty bad, but I look
but you
back
remember,
at it.
You remember what you used to do with that? The magic used to make.
When I remember, it used to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I already did some like freelance or like small websites for people while I was in university.
Right.
And then once I was in uni, I got in touch with to shorten a little bit of what happened in there, but I got in touch with the entrepreneurship sort of thing in Brazil, sort of the scene. That was about 2009, 8, 9, 10. In Brazil was a big boom of startups and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I think in 2010, I got a copy of the Lean Startup book. Yeah, Eric Ries.
That's our Bible for everyone listening to this.
Yeah, and I remember
designers.
And I remember reading that and going to university to the classes and the teachers talking about like old school software and teach me how to code in. We had like code classes on engineering. They used to write the code on paper, Java or COBOL and stuff, and I was like, nah, I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to ship things fast and then build this startup business and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to leave university and then I joined a startup at the time. We had a blog that was a very good blog around, there was a pretty good idea. It used to be like, the name is Empreendemia. Mm-hmm. And they used to be like a Facebook pages, like a Facebook for companies was the idea.
Okay, I see.
Which is a pretty good idea at the time, but of course Facebook killed that. But what survived was they used to have as a marketing tactic. They were pretty good at following Seth Godin and doing a lot of sort of blog posts.
Okay.
So they have a very strong blog about entrepreneurship that everyone from the team needed to write constantly about things that we learn about startup world or marketing or sometimes we would just translate Seth Godin's posts to Portuguese. Yeah. And give him credit about it. And since then, I never left sort of the tech and the entrepreneurship field.
I see.
Yeah. So from that, I went to work at a design studio with, it was like market a tech studio with a few friends. From that, helped start 99 Jobs. It was a startup in Brazil that still exists to this day. And I remember used to work at the agency during the day, the design studio agency during the day. And then we'll leave work, go to my friend's house and work on 99 Job throughout the night until like 1, 2 a.m. Go to sleep, work next day, 8 a.m., same day, almost 7 days a week until the product was out. It was super nice.
Oh, cool.
And it was super cool because it was funny at the time because you know a little bit of everything. You know how to code, you know a little bit of marketing, so you know how to use Photoshop and design thing. He was using Photoshop at the time to design. And we didn't have a vocabulary to call something like UX flow or wireframes and stuff.
That didn't start until later.
Yeah, we're just doing things. So we're doing screens and then we're sticking screens at the wall at my friend's bedroom and analyzing the flows. Does this make sense? I used to animate things on Keynote because I thought it was easier.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
So I grabbed the screens, exported all the elements from Photoshop, put them in the Keynote, and then animated them to show how things will scroll and stuff. Keynote's actually very powerful for animations and stuff. Yeah. And that was super cool. Then after that, went to an educational startup called College to help other people also seek an alternative path to education.
Right.
Went back to, at that time, doing a lot of freelance on sort of design and to other agencies. Joined an agency and had an agency with a couple of friends there in Brazil, like a design studio, very focused on design strategy and product design. We work a lot with companies in the US. And then got married. My wife wanted to move overseas.
I see.
So we're like, oh, let's look at Canada, Australia, and then started looking in New Zealand, what's happening here. My co-founders now, the co-founders of Rome, co-founders now at RYFT, but the co-founders at Rome saw that I saw their profile on LinkedIn. And then the next day I woke up with do you want to come to New Zealand? Sort of a message on LinkedIn.
No way.
From them.
Wow.
And then
That's
we did
crazy.
a Skype call interviews.
Yeah.
Talk a lot about where I want to, like what value would I bring and what do I think, because Rome at the time used to be more a gaming sort of
Yeah.
focused company. And then I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but I think we can hit a focus on sort of more on the product design strategy, bringing value to large business. I think we're right at the point of the inflection where this is going to bring a lot of value. I can see McKinsey start doing that.
Yeah.
At a time, it was McKinsey Designed and turned to McKinsey Digital. You could see a couple of the pieces moving.
Yeah.
Large consultancies buying small studios in Brazil, in the US. And then I was like, yeah, I think we can get an advantage here in the market. And Chris, that's my partner now, the business partner at Rome, he was like, I completely agree. That's what I want to do. When I arrived at Rome, I think we should be about 20 something people, maybe 30. And then when we sold the company in 2021, we were 150, a little bit more, 3 countries, Auckland, Sydney, and Singapore.
I see.
Yeah, and it was a good run. Yeah.
Tremendous, man. I was a big fan of Rome Digital. I didn't
really?
tell you this, but I interviewed for them at one point. And that's how I came across your profile, and I came across Rome and all of that. And I was like impressed with their work. And I didn't get the job. But I was like, this place is...
When was it?
Oh, many years ago. They were looking for somebody a little bit more senior. And I was like, fair enough. But one of the things I love was the vibe, the people, everything. I was so gutted I didn't get the job. But I love their work. I was like, man, this place is amazing. And that's when I started following your work. Love Rome and what you guys did with that. So what happens after that? So you guys sell the company?
Yeah, company was sold in 2021 to a US-based company. And then after that...
What drove you to make that decision? Like, what was the decision to sell? Like, what did somebody approach when you went, yeah, it's time to move? Or
I think it was around 2019, I want to say. We had a company offsite with the leadership team.
Yeah.
And leadership team was bigger than about 8 people, the heads of all the areas and stuff. And we started talking about where do we want to go? Like, for how long do we want to keep pushing Rome? Are we getting to the end of the market where the value they'll deliver start to be commoditized, or how is this looking? We're still, our revenue was where we wanted it to be, profit margins where we wanted it to be, but I think all companies have a beginning and an end.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people get too attached to companies and they don't want to let go. Yeah. And then they start seeing that thing sort of mingle. How many studios, for example, design studios that we know that people say, oh, back in the day it was 300 people here, and then you walk in and it's like 5. And then, because the market goes in waves, right? So I think it's important for you to be able to create something, capture the value, and then use the value they captured to start something else, I think, and close a chapter and not be too attached to it.
That's a great advice.
Yeah, and everyone was... And then I was like, I always remember thinking about, which is something that came back in my head a few years ago after the sale, but it was like, are the best days behind us or ahead of us?
Yeah.
Are the best days of Rome behind us or ahead of us? And at that time, it was ahead of us. And then we were like, yeah, but we can't ride the top wave forever. So let's give it a go and then create enough value. And then we get to a sale event in 3 years. And that was 2019. We ended up with that, thanks to 2020, we have pretty good clients that doubled down during the pandemic on our team. So we were like at full maximum capacity on 2020. We were like firing all pistons. Everyone was ultra busy, all of our offices, which was like, we're looking at that and saying, all right, we're probably at everything looks good. You look at the financial report, everything, people are happy, projects are going well, we're getting awards. That's cool. All right, should we be open to being approached? And then we were approached a few times. Chris and Ben, they're the 2 co-founders, and they dealt with most of that, with all of that actually, until one of them approached Chris, I think, on LinkedIn. And then Chris didn't thought it was serious, but they kept insisting, and he ended up being the acquired, yeah. And then they went quiet for a while, and then it came back and say, "Can we see your your numbers and our numbers were like
Really good.
really good.
Yeah.
And then it resulted into the acquisition. But at the end, it was like that. We were thinking about already doing our own products, but there is a conflict between being, I feel, an agency and a consultancy and working for others, than being nimble and try to stretch the dollar and opening a startup. That I think when I try to do both at the same time, it's very hard, right? So we had a couple internal projects that we were doing at a time and a couple of startup plays. But then a big client comes in and say, hey, can you start this project? Have like a $500K or $1 million project. And then there's no way they're going to keep that team doing free work and not put them to have billable hours into that client, right? Because it goes against what your core business model is.
Yes.
It's very hard to protect that core team. So we ended up using people that are free, junior people, and the projects don't get enough traction. And then we're like, should we spin it off and do 2 completely separate units? Or should we actually go hard on just the consultancy side, make it very nice, capture the value, start something new later on, a venture studio? And that's what we ended up doing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's incredible. Man, that's so right there. So many good pieces of advice for entrepreneurs, for designers, in what you just said about capturing the value and being able to close a chapter. Cool. That's amazing. So then we arrived at RYFT.
Yeah.
Which is something that is very exciting. Like I've never come across, you get exposed to a lot of the venture stuff, the incubators and accelerators and all of that kind of ecosystem. But the venture studio, based on what I understood, is like a 625% growth on the venture studio front since 2013, right? So walk us through what the difference is for people listening to this who don't even know what a venture studio is and what RYFT is. Walk us through quickly, what's the value proposition for RYFT as a venture studio and fund?
The easiest way to talk about it is that we are a startup that creates startups.
Right.
Venture capital firm, the main value that they bring in
is the money, right?
Is the money, connections as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time there's dumb money and smart money.
And then some,
A few of there's a few funds that are very good that have actually real operators, people that work in or created companies before, and they can help with a lot of the advice and contacts, and they have a big network between their investors that maybe their investors already create enough money so they can put money on the fund. So it means that they have distribution across a couple of industries. That's the majority of the value that they bring.
Yeah.
Theoretically, because I know there are funds and there are VCs and there are VCs.
Yeah.
And the venture studio is different, right? So in our case, we evaluate the opportunities in the markets. We come up with a backlog of ideas. We validate the ideas, build prototype, try to test, interview people. And then we run that validation period until there's something there to hold. We have a criteria on, will this, like a couple of benchmarks, or can we get to 30 customers to see if this works or not? And then we get to 30 customers to go, cool, past that validation point. Can we scale the technology? Is this something we can protect with some IP?
Yeah.
Do we have the right distribution channels, right? So we have a one-pager sort of criteria that we need to fill in during this process. And once we have a few winners, then we have our own fund, which is on paper is structured the same as a VC fund.
VC fund, yeah.
It's a limited partnership, so we have the LPs, that's called the investors. We're general partners, so we manage that fund. And then we do a investment committee meeting, and then we use the money from the fund to put money into our own sort of the startups that survive sort of this
whole
first
validation process. Right.
This whole validation process.
I got that from your side. You go explore, validate, launch, traction, and then scale, which is exactly what you... Can you actually, that's quite interesting. Can you give us an example of like this whole process with a company that you guys have worked on?
I can give an example from Jane. So I have a HEYJANE.AI that's out now. Yeah. And Jane is just going through the process of the investment committee to see if we're going to put money on it or not. We actually did this at the beginning of the year. And Jane was during the explore phase, right? So we did a deep dive into prop tech and sort of tradey SMB products.
Yeah.
2-week sprint of research. What is out there? What's happening in the world? What can an AI enable with our engineering team? What is it? What is cool? What are people using? What are the main pain points? Go to chat with builders on site. I have builders at my house because we're doing a little bit of work, chatting with them, pestering them with questions. Can you see the tools that you guys use and what software are you using and stuff? Jane then started with as sort of like a job management platform powered by it. So a job management sort of agent sort of platform. And then during that, I did the design, did a couple of design prototypes and stuff, went to test with tradies.
Yeah.
And a lot of the feedback from them were, yeah, this is really cool. But my issue is at the end of the day, that like they will look at it, they will go through the prototype and, being a designer, they go, yeah, this is really cool. Yeah, very nice. And get the feedback I can use and stuff. And then we'll finish the research and they go, grab their phones and it's like, look at this. All unanswered calls. Don't know who it is. Because it's just the numbers, right, from customers. They look at unanswered calls, all phone numbers from unknowns. And they're like, how do I know who to reply? Like, can you solve this for me? Can I get use of this technology to solve this for me? And I was like, yes, we can. We can. And that feedback started to, I heard it once and then interviewed a more sort of like a carpenter. He said the same thing. Sparky said the same thing. And we're like, maybe there's something here. And then it sat down. It was like 2 weeks that from that feedback sat down. I designed the screens quickly of a first version of what the product was. Sat down with Brent, that's from our team, used to work at RUM. We actually use a big part of our team now at RYFT used to
work at RUM. Yeah, I looked at the team and I looked at some people and said, oh, this is a product designer from RUM as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I sat down, I was doing the design and Brent was hacking something together and then we put it on the test flight, shipped to people that complain about the thing, say, is this what you need? Is this going to solve the problem? And they started using that's what Jane, right? They started using it. It's like, yeah, this is sweet. Yeah, this helps a lot.
Wow, that's awesome. So it was a pivot right there on the spot. Oh, that's awesome.
And that's a little bit of the process, right? On the that I think about one of the values of venture studios that's different.
Yes,
like
the ability to be agile, truly, right? And then explore at the beginning and be able to change direction if required and all of that kind of stuff. Let me ask you this, because you talked about Jane, you started with Jane. How did you guys come across the first sort of concept of Jane? Was that because was this an idea that you guys came up with? Was it somebody else's idea that was brought to you, the studio? Or
so Jane was our idea.
It was your own idea.
Yeah, okay. Because we were looking at the problem first.
Right. Okay.
And then what arrived was I was coming back with the research and was looking at it and I was like, yeah, this job, I think it was called, the code name was like Job Booster or Trade Booster or something like that. The name of the other, code name for the other job management platform.
Right.
And then we're sitting down, it was me, Chris, Brent, the engineer, and it was like, yeah, I wonder if there's something we could do with AI and then hook it up to with a phone number and then have that assistant sort of like have the conversation. And then Chris, it's actually has a lot of background on telco. He used to work for Skype.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I could do that. I could hook up and do that. And it was like, oh, can we put it a back end? And then what kind of models that we have in terms of the text to speech, speech to text, and we understand different languages, the tone, what voice can we use, accent, New Zealand accent. And then that originated our own sort of like back-end platform to call it Parrot, that is sort of this engine for our voice sort of agents. And then we started putting together a couple of things there, just a rough pipes to see if it would work. And then we had a number, called the number, had a chat, and then we had a message coming through Slack on qualifying the lead. This person's serious. They asked about this, and that. I clarified the question. They had a budget in mind and stuff. And we were like, oh, that's sweet. And then I sat down, designed the screens.
That's amazing.
I was like, oh, how's this going to look like? Design the screens. Brent put together super quick using Flutter.
Yeah.
Louise, like not quick and dirty, Firebase.
Yeah.
Test flight. Can we put it on our phones? Yeah, it worked. And that was it. Yeah.
Wow. And the technology that we're talking what year?
This
is
was
a couple of
last year.
years.
No.
Last year.
Yeah.
This was
Jen is super
exactly,
recent.
So at that time, did you guys use like open source models that were doing all these voice translations and all of that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, there's a mix open source. Like the way that we build the backend is because you need to have fallbacks because you can't have someone try to reach someone and not be able to get through or just go to an answer number because a person is redirecting the call to the agent. So we can plug and play whatever model, and we have a couple of fallback models. If one is offline, which doesn't happen often, but sometimes will happen, we can swap them out. But right now, for example, we used Mistral before. We used Grok for a while.
Okay.
It was very good for conversations. Not very good with the actual interpretation of the data, but with conversations was nice. But now we're using OpenAI.
I see.
But there is a couple ones because you need to use one for conversation, one for the voice, one for the transcription and interpretation of the data. So just try to pick and choose whatever are the best ones at each task and put them together.
Yeah, that's what we did as well. We shipped a very, very exciting feature recently, which is also an AI feature. That essentially what it does is, just in a nutshell, you can our interface for creating queries to export data and to visualize data is quite complex because, of course, there's so many variables in it. So what the AI does is that you put your question in plain English, and the query, and it will interpret that into a particular. So basically, we'll click all the toggles for you, just the easiest way. So you know how you go to a UI, it's like you have to filter by this, and then click like 7 times to create your query.
Yeah,
it's essentially the same thing, but using natural language. So, for example, if you want to understand what is the most popular TV show in Brazil that's anime and popular amongst females, you enter that, and it will create a query for you. Before, you had to like find buttons and click here and click here and click here. And we also explore that type of thing. It's like, well, some agents are good at interpreting this, but then some other are good at, being able to hook into a JSON and being able to actually populate the interface. And it's quite interesting that you can validate this so quickly now with all these different resources that are available to you. Anyway, sorry to people about a little bit about that, but that's very interesting. Okay, so
because it's very interesting. This topic is very interesting because, for example, Claude, I find it much better at code than the OpenAI models.
Yes, yeah.
And then often I see people chatting and say, yesterday actually, chatting with a person is like, no, I don't use ChatGPT, so it doesn't give me a good answer. It's like, are you using the free version? Yes. It was like, yeah, but that's not it. That's not the best model. And then it's like, oh yeah, but code is not. Have you tried it? $20.
Yeah.
Try and see the most advanced model and see how it works, or go to Claude or to Anthropic.
Yeah.
Or go to Gemini and try to see what the outputs are, especially for code, because you can, if you're a developer or an engineer, you can interpret it and see if it's correct or if it's not correct and stuff. Yeah. So you can pick and choose and use like whatever it is that.
Yeah, there's also a bunch of
your workflow best.
Yeah, there's also a bunch of different tools that will kind of cross-reference each other's. So if you try, using Perplexity or whatever, and then you want to cross-reference that you use a QA from another.
Yeah, Perplexity is awesome.
Yeah. So because we use that as well for different tasks.
Yeah.
So Perplexity for some things, we use OpenAI for some things, Claude as well, like you mentioned, and now DeepSeek, of course, coming out with the price being one of the biggest things in there. Anyway, so sorry to deviate, but the AI conversation could keep us here for a long time, I think. Awesome. So basically, you pivot, you decide, hey, actually, this is actually what they need, and you go through from the exploration first to the validation. Then you launch it. Like, what was that launch like? Do you get the willingness to pay from them right away?
Yeah, we launched on test flight already which actually we got a slap from Apple. We have Stripe, so people need to pay for the trial. Of course. And then Apple. It's against the terms of service of Apple. So it was funny because we launched it, soft launch, to other people to use, apart from our beta users. So they were using and trying to test, and they were using Stripe for it. When we launched into the App Store, we left Stripe to see, because also Apple charges you 30%. It's another large conversation. You can apply that and get to reduce to 15%, but that's a business partner that that's a lot of money actually for us most time. Stripe's 5%. Then we launch it with Stripe, and then there was a bug on the onboarding flow.
Oh no!
In the middle of the onboarding, there was one of the steps where you chat with Jane, with the agent, and she set up the entire business information for you. Just call her and then she talks with it.
Yeah.
That call wasn't working for a few of our users. And when it pushed the fix, and Apple said, wait a second, I'm also taking a look at here, and you're not using the Apple payment thing, and blocks the...
Oh no!
Which was at a time when an Instagram influencer in Australia also picked it up on Jane, did a big push. So we're seeing all these people coming in, and I was like with a mixed panel hooked in. I was looking at the flow, and then it would go, everyone coming in, 100%, people going through the onboarding flow, boom, and then it goes down to...
Yeah. Oh no!
It goes down to 10%. I was like, what the fuck? And then they're trying to do it, and then it took us a couple of days actually to go through that with Apple and back and forth, because we need to build it. Hook up the payment flows and stuff and change a couple of things on the design, and it worked. But it's a couple of things that you only learn, I think, when you're or that you remember when you're trying to launch something quickly. But Jane is a funny example, because usually what we do is that after we go through the validation phase, before the launch, we do sort of like a pre-seed round.
I see. Yeah.
Raise.
I was going to ask you about this. Yeah.
So we go and say, it's validated. There's enough proof points. Take it to the investment committee, and then we can evaluate if it's worth putting a certain amount of money for us to launch this properly.
Yeah.
With Jane, it was a little bit different, because the paperwork for the fund took us a long time to get set up. You need to be... We're essentially a financial provider, so there's quite a bit of bureaucracy. We had PwC involved. We had a few lawyers involved just to set up all the structure in a sort of a nice, neat way, safe way for everyone. There's a lot of compliance in the end of the day. So Jane should have gone to that investment committee earlier.
Yeah.
If you're following just the playbook as it stands today, the playbook that we built for RYFT. But as it is with a startup, the first company, we didn't have the fund set up in time to do it. So we kept running Jane, launch it, build more features, build a calendar integration, kept running it, and customers starting to sign up, and we're launching in Australia, sign up, and now she's a little bit past the point of launch and just now going to the fund. But ideally, the other ideas that we have on our pipeline, we're doing the validation first, and we're going to have a milestone before launch where we decide if it's going to get funded or not.
I see. That's awesome, man. That's incredible. Walk us through quickly, because I wanted to ask you about this, because you talked about the difference, what makes a venture studio different. Give us a quick, because the first thing I thought when I heard about what that is, I was like, well, isn't that an accelerator sort of thing, or an incubator? But they're different. They're different in terms of the longevity of the relationship, for example. Can you, just for people listening, can you just walk us through the key difference between this and an incubator and an accelerator?
Yeah, a lot of times incubators and accelerators, Y Combinator being one of them, you already have an idea, a team, you pitch to them, they will accept you. They sometimes not, but sometimes they'll put a little bit of money to pay for your, let's call it validation phase.
Yeah.
They'll take throughout a few weeks, and then they'll give you support in terms of how to structure sales, how to structure engineering teams, help the founders, help the team, all of that support, almost like a boot camp for startups. And then after that time, you have a demo day, they expose you to other investors, but then off you're on your own, right? From there.
Yeah.
If you're part of the large accelerators, Y Combinator being one of them, you get the nice stamp being part of Y Combinator that a lot of people want to have. Those are more accelerator and incubators, they're very similar, sometimes using even interchangeably this model on how it works. Sometimes incubator do a little bit less. They would just help you with a couple of services that can help you set up the finance team. It can help you set up marketing team. You come here, use our space. We get a bit of equity in exchange.
Yes.
And then off you go on your startup. In our case, the way that we decided to set up the Venture Studio, there's a few different flavors of Venture Studio, but the way that we decided to set up ours, it's very similar to what Idea Lab used to be in the US back in the day, one of the first venture studios that they had, or Hexa in France. That is, a lot of them are our ideas. So we have a backlog of ideas, we validate them, we go to do a research. Sometimes it might be that there is a founder that has a domain knowledge and comes and partners with us and wants to do something like 50-50, and then we do like a joint venture and have a founder from the get-go. But if not, a lot of the ideas that we have in our pipeline are things that interest us. They make sense based on the sort of the investment criteria, the things that we want to build. Around, does it have a dip? Can AI help solve this problem? Is this a real problem? A couple of other things. Isn't within the areas that we think that we're capable of building things.
Yes.
And then we take that all through the validation. Still, all of our team taking it through the validation, internal team, exploration, the rapid exploration, until the point when we fund it, and then we bring we call a late co-founder to lead it. A lot of times that person's very sales driven, so it's going to help with distribution or in a different market. And then they start building their own team, and then we bring someone to be the CTO, starts having their team all full time, and then we move into a capacity where we're working. At that time, we're still doing a lot of the finance, marketing, sort of the other things.
Yeah.
But then after sort of that pre-seed seed round is when it starts walking with its own. Its own legs. Yeah. So we hold the majority of the company ourselves for as long as we can. And that enables us to have some flexibility. For example, if we have a product on validation, we have a couple of products. One product, maybe timing is not right. I think technology is great, the product's great, but it's not hitting the curve for timing on the market. Probably it's not right, or there's a seasonality kind of situation there.
Yeah.
So we can just move the RYFT team to another idea, keep the product running, customer support running, move the engineering design team to another idea and try to ramp that up.
Right, I see.
Which is something that a startup a lot of times they can't do, right? So you need to keep paying that team even though they might not be too busy, or worse, you fall into the trap of maybe we need more features.
That's right.
And then you keep putting more and more features. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to talk to you about experimentation, because that's part we talked about. You just mentioned that example with Jane, but I'm pretty sure you have another examples with TABLERO, for example. Walk us through that, because that's one of the most exciting things as a designer when you're going through that part, the experimentation, the testing new ideas, validating them with different users. You also mentioned your heavy emphasis on AI as a core pillar of the technology that you're building. Walk us through sort of the thought process around that and how you guys experiment at RYFT, because one of the things that, from my perspective, one of the things that excites me the most about AI is the capacity you have for quick validation. Before, right, you wanted to do something, it took you such a long time from an idea to being able to test it. And this new technology, it just helps you to do that a lot quicker. Right, and I use it a lot in my workflows. The amount of stuff we do now in the UX space with it is incredible. So walk us through like that particular view of RYFT with AI first, and how that, especially around experimentation.
AI plays a couple of roles at RYFT. One of the things is we do believe it is a transformative force in the industry, in the world, probably. We had a rode the mobile boom, the design strategy sort of boom, then the cloud, a lot of the cloud services boom and stuff. And now with RYFT, we're trying to leverage all of that, sort of the next wave that we believe it's AI, although I think it's the wave that's most likely not going away anytime soon. It might not pass. It might just be that it's not a wave; it's just the water level that that rises. But we used to play a lot with it, with machine learning, especially at Rome, and it's something that just interests us, right? So we do believe that we can solve a lot more problems that before you used to solve with algorithms, with automation, or you wouldn't be able to solve at all, or with people, with AI. Not only with how the model stands today, but especially how where he's gonna go, right?
Yes,
so there's a lot of things that's to evolve. But also for us is I do like small teams.
What do you like about small teams?
Do you play football?
Yes.
Do you know when you can do a pass and you don't need to look?
Yes.
And you know the person's gonna be there?
Yes.
For me, it's that.
It's like that, right?
It's like that.
When they pass you to the right foot so you can do the turn. He knows you so well that you knew you need to like go onto your left foot. Like that's how you know your teammates working, like your team's working perfectly.
Yeah, for me, even when we started RYFT,
right, that's a good point.
Me, Chris, Ben, Brent after he joined a few months later, but me, Chris, and Ben at the beginning, the founders, we never talked about what like roles and responsibilities. We never had the conversation roles and responsibilities.
Yeah,
we each knew what each other's skills were, and we just started doing things.
Right.
I didn't fill in the holes, amazing. And then I knew how if I drop a ball here, that it was more on Chris's field. I don't need to look if he's going to pick it up or not. He's already running with it.
Yes.
And that feeling to me is like just the feeling of sit down with Brent sometimes, with Jared. That used to be CTO at Rome and stuff. And a couple of times ago, hey, Jared, did you take a look at it? He's like, yeah, I finished that last week. Oh, yeah, I was already thinking about that. So I was like, I already did that last week. And then, and I go, yeah.
So that's synergy. That's like,
it is.
It's just built through that relationship throughout the years, through your thought process and just the connections that you have with them.
Yeah. And then there's something about the way the communication is with smaller teams.
Yeah.
The how people get closer together. You can, I think with a team about, let's say, up to 15, maybe 20 people is stretching a little bit, but we are already 11 at RYFT. So you kind of know, like it's a good group size that you know what people's partners' names are and what they care about. And like you still care a lot. After you start growing a little bit more from that size, I think you lose a little bit of velocity in exchange for a couple of bureaucracies that you need to set up, or ceremonies
100%.
or communication, sort of things that you need to set up in order for large teams to try to emulate what you can get from smaller teams, especially in terms of information flow. So in order for us to keep a small team, we need to Brent and Jared as two people to try to do the work of 5 engineers if we need 5 engineers actually do some piece of work, right? At the beginning, it was just me on design. So I need to be able to do the work of more than one designer. So I need to do research, I need this, I need to do product as well. I need to set up the roadmap, I need to think about the strategy, I need to think about research, you need to do screens. So, and that shift about, I need to think about the metrics of this product and this, and set up the sort of the one-pager strategy. I also need to figure out what icon I'm going to use on this screen. That shift is hard a lot of times. And if you can't augment yourself with, I think, artificial intelligence and incorporate into our own workflow, it'll be very hard for you to have a small team that is competitive enough to compete with larger teams or startups that get $10 million and scale to 50 people like this. They all have their own challenges on bringing too many people too fast. But a lot of times there are situations where you can just throw a lot of people into a problem and that they'll get done faster. Yeah. And we need to be able to compete with that. So incorporating, for example, GitHub agent, GitHub Copilot for the team. We're thinking about exploring Devin. That is the software engineer. They are a software engineer now. We're seeing some good things. I use V0 quite a bit from Vercel for design. So I do something on Figma, and then I need to chat with need to do the front end or something quick here, and then I put on V0 the screens, or you can connect just with Figma.
Yeah.
And have front end to look and say, all right, this is good enough. We just need to change this, and that, and pass it on to Jared, and then we finish it up, and it's close to release. So all of those things, instead of spending time, because I can't spend time building a prototype and thinking, oh, what is the states, and doing the
And then documentation, and then the back and forth with the QA and all of that.
Yeah,
of
that's
stuff.
absolute-
That's just too much time.
and doing what are all the states of a variable, if someone clicks here, so it looks more. That's way too much time. So I can just grab that, screenshot that screen, either put on ChatGPT, get me enough code so I can put on CodePen so people can play with it,
Yeah.
or use V0 so it looks way more real, more interactive, than spending time doing all those links on Figma.
On Figma as well, the prototype and all that.
Yeah, I don't like. There's no time for
Right.
those things. It's too time consuming, especially because I'm not that fast on tools. I'm super slow. I used to be faster, but now it is funny because my partner is a product designer as well,
Okay.
and she comes from video editing, so and 3D, which are people that come from that. They're all about the tools. They know shortcuts for everything. They know where everything is. They just don't look to work on things.
Yes.
For me, especially as we move on to more leadership roles, I'm fine with the tools. It should be much more agile. But now, these days, things change so fast that I look and say, all right, so how do I link this here and stuff? And I was like, it's easier for me to code this than it is to keep linking all of the screens and then need to name them. I'm not the best person to. I joke that I only name them my screens when they deserve to be named.
Well, I guess what? Now Figma has that. Have you tried the features of the renaming and stuff? That's crazy. That's for people like me. I'm the same as you. It's like all these unnamed layers and all these unnamed components. It's like you just type name these with this particular criteria and it does it for you.
I use this week, because I'm like always like, all right, this screen's how it's gonna look like. I'll look at all the reference, change these things, and then sometimes I'll just sit down with the Brent if it's available. Otherwise, I'll do it myself, and I look into the code so I can put it on the phone, and I was like, yeah, does it look right? And then you keep changing it. Yeah. So it's more agile. For us, it's very important to. There's one thing that we say now that we have more designers and engineers. That is, source of truth is code. Figma is not source of truth. It's just a communication. It's a way for us to communicate what we wanted the product to convey and what we want to achieve here. But the source of truth is whatever is committed to code and people are using it. That's the source of truth. Because there's a lot of times that we don't need for the engineer to do something and pass it back, and then the designer is gonna go, let me redesign this. It's just sit down next to you or on a call with the engineer and goes, oh yeah, let's move this to that. Oh yeah, let's change this. What if this component changes? All right, push it. And then when we need to design a new version, we grab screenshots of what's on production, put it in Figma.
And we're doing the exact same thing because we had a monster of a design system. When we finish this, I show you the platform I work for. And when you see it, you're going to be like, oh, Jesus. Like that is such a huge, and the same exact problem that you're describing, it happened to us. And it got to a point where it's just too difficult because it takes too much time from, we have to ship a feature and the back and forth with the engineer, oftentimes the deliverable being quite time critical means that whatever we shipped is good enough, but it doesn't mirror the design system of what we actually have in design. But then they're out of sync. And, if you want to keep them in sync, then it's a whole of a lot of process. So we do exactly what you're saying. We have the designs, the design system or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what is in production. And whenever we need to do a quick change or whatever, screenshot like this, just use this, is fine, do this. It still looks fine. Like only designers will probably notice the difference at the end of the day, right? But yeah, man, I 100% agree with you on this in terms of the capacity for exploration, and especially around the small teams, like the ability to put that pass to the right place without even looking. I think that's let me ask you this, because it came to mind as you're talking about AI. Are you guys looking at any particular areas or any particular industries as the ones that are prone to be disrupted by AI? For example, I've heard a lot about the health sector. You hear a lot about the education sector. Of course, AI can touch every industry you can imagine, but there are particular ones where there's a lot of opportunity for amazing things. Is there any particular industry in your guys' view that you're really looking to disrupt?
Yeah, there's on our sort of like fund sort of criteria, we have a few industries that we identified,
Yeah.
but instead of going into then the way into every single one of them, I think the best way to summarize is whenever is industries that have been slow to digitize, to move into digitization, and there's a lot of admin and operational overhead.
Right.
So anywhere on insurance, fintech, prop tech, health care,
Yep.
creativity and productivity, there's a lot of still of overhead. There's quite a few sort of industries that we identify that sometimes we call them admin killers.
Yes.
So anywhere that is like too much admin, and there's a couple of industries that there's a product that we doing a validation into in the United States. I can't talk much about it, but it's in an industry. It's in the, I can say it's in the property market, the prop tech industry. And there's a couple processes that there's still to this day, they take a lot of time, and their error rate is gigantic because it's a person doing them. And that cost passes on to the consumer. That cost is passive. It flows down to the value. Someone's paying for it, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of times it's consumers that are paying for those prices. And it's one of those problems that if you speak with a few people, they're like, that's just how way that the industry
Is
works.
the way it is. Yeah. Yeah.
And you look, it's like no one's trying to. Like, how can we make this better? Yeah.
A lot of the health and safety stuff is so difficult to innovate in those spaces because, again, it's like you said, it's been done like that forever. And it's one of those things that it takes so much work in terms of the relationship with the industries that need to change. Let me give you an example. Recently, I went to a talk at Rush Digital, and they were showcasing a project that they were working on, which was very interesting. It was around the rail work health and safety of the workers. So when somebody's going to work on the train tracks, and this happens across New Zealand, they have this system where the worker has to come in and lock in a padlock onto a board. Physical padlock, it has a key, has to lock the padlock in a board, and then he can go out into the track. And then that's a way for them to track how many workers are inside the track. So that when a train is coming, they need to make sure that everybody is back on site.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why each one has a key, and then they have to come out, right? So if you look at that as a tech person, you go, are you insane? There's so many ways you can solve this problem, right? So these guys, the good team at Rush are creating this digitized version of it, which they're doing an amazing job with that. But one of the things they were talking about is the fact that industry in particular, and in just the health and safety space, is really hard to innovate in those industries because of the bureaucracies, because there's so many people that they find so many problems with it. And on top of that, there's so many variables, right, within that you need to probably put proper design thinking and experimentation validation process to be able to make sure, because you're dealing with health and safety of people, right? So that's the first thing I thought of when you said that. Like, there's so many industries that just it requires you to step in with this technology to essentially reduce costs, because all those things, the impact that technology has, essentially results in millions and millions of dollars of productivity.
And it's very hard to give a step back, I think, as well. It's very hard for you to have time even to give a step back and think, isn't this crazy? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You're just trying to, like, when you're trying to, it's like swimming and the waves are big. And when you think about what is the best strategy to lose, it's just another wave comes crashing down, pulls you down, and then you try to swim back. It's always you're trying to do is trying to keep yourself afloat, which is pretty hard.
We talked about Jane, which is pretty cool. What about TABLERO?
TABLERO is another experiment we did, especially for that one came from our finance guy at this is for me, eh?
Yeah, this is for you. Yeah.
Oh, this is quite nice. Did you buy because of the design of the bottle or no?
100%. I'm a sucker for that. Shout out ANEW. ANEW is an amazing company.
This is very nice.
It's very interesting because essentially they redesign the entire process of recycling. And that's what I thought it was interesting, because when you talked about biodegradable bottles and recyclable bottles and stuff, at the end of the day, what he explained, and this is Jaden, is that you have to pretty much redesign the entire ecosystem of how the whole thing gets produced and collected in order for you to properly do all the emissions and reductions that are required to truly make a bottle eco-friendly. On top of that, they lead with design. There's a badass bottle. They do collaborations. And I love it. So I they're not paying me for saying this, by the way. But I love it. Yes, I bought it because the design is amazing and the company is pretty cool, and it's a New Zealand company. So there you go.
That's pretty cool. I ask because I buy things all the time because of how they look on the shelves.
Yes. They also now won recently. I saw it on LinkedIn because I follow them on LinkedIn. They won an award or something on the innovation space in the United States for the eco products.
That's
and all
awesome.
That kind of stuff. Shout out ANEW, and they do amazing also collaboration with artists. So there's a bottle that they can have online, which these artists and have all the little prints on it. So
that's pretty cool.
Very cool. For you design nerds out there, get some ANEW in you. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Tablero.
Tablero
is it's a project that it started from a finance guy, right? So Alex helping us set up the fund. He used to be our finance manager back at Rome, helping us a lot of the fund setup and a couple of operation things. And at the end of the month, every month he's helping us with just reconciliation and stuff.
Yeah.
And I hate it because it's always chasing me, because all of the subscriptions, a lot of the subscriptions are on my Wise card, on the company sort of Wise card, and someone on Chris's. But I'll get sometimes I'll go, oh, that's a new tool, or
let's try it out.
I need a couple of new icons or mobbing or whatever it is, and you start buying things.
Yeah.
And he's always chasing me out. Do you get the receipt? Do you get the other receipt and stuff? And I'm my inbox zero person, so everything that comes into my inbox, I just archive or delete.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
Nothing there.
And then I need to keep finding it, trying to figure it out. And then we always had, back at Rome, we had an email called bob@romedigital.com. That Bob's not a person, it's just an email for finance things, or for every tool that we want to set up. We had a Bob email. That was the billing email.
This is the billing email.
Because of Bob the Builder. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. We have a Bob at RYFT as well. And then I keep needing forwarding things to Bob, but it's Alex, right, that is looking at it and trying to figure it out where are things and whatnot. And then we're looking and saying, oh, wait a second, can we use AI to automate this? We could build a standard sort of automation with code, but would AI be able to go through our email, pick it up, and do the sort of at least the reconciliation process? And from that, can it create the vendors? Can it create the sort of the companies? Can he do the setup, sort of that zero sort of setup for us? And then we start playing with it, and then automating, and then we did the integration with Gmail, and then now we're using it internally, so it scans the receipts now and does all that part for us. And part of the Venture Studio, what is interesting is that a lot what we learn on how it handles finding receipts and PDFs and context through emails, we're going to use in Jane. Jane is now, I think it's fine to talk about it. We're building another brand with the same technology as Jane. That's going to be a sort of a different product. But Jane and this other product called Heron that's going to come out soon, they're both using that capability that we built for TABLERO of going through the emails, finding contacts, being able to reply to find more contacts and whatnot, which is something that if you're just a one startup, you wouldn't do. But as a venture studio, we can look and say, we already built this capability over here, right? And then we can leverage that across the other portfolio companies.
That's incredible, dude.
TABLERO now is taking on what we call it Backburner. We have Frontburner sprints and Backburner sprints. Backburner sprints is a sprint that not a sprint, cycles where we put the companies there while they're just like it's doing what it needs to do. It's working with us. We're gonna get some other early adopters to start testing it, but we don't have the bandwidth now to work on that alongside the two other companies that Jane and the other one that Jane is bifurcating into as well. And there is another startup that's the one that we're going to launch in the US as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about this whole crazy thing about the race for AI right now, like in the last month. That's what everybody's talking about, right? DeepSeek and what happened with DeepSeek and blah, blah, blah. You guys are, of course, AI-driven or AI first, almost. What are your thoughts on this technology in terms of where it's heading? And who do you think is not going to win the race, but who's going to start dominating more? Because at the moment, it seems like with the launch of DeepSeek seems to have opened the floodgates for a lot of things that were thought of in terms of the budget that you need, for example. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on all of this?
We talked a lot about this internally at the company almost every day. It's hard to think about who is going to win. I think at the end of the day, the models are being almost like commoditized at a speed that we have never seen technology being commoditized that fast, right? So you have a lot of the apps now, or maybe soon you'll be able to. Actually, OpenAI was talking about this thing. Sam Altman was posting about this on Twitter that their next model, I think GPT-5, you're not gonna know what model they're using behind the scenes. They're just gonna use whatever is that's best for the task. So they need to go and choose.
You don't have to choose like best for reasoning, best for math and code or whatever. Yeah,
just gonna identify and do whatever it is.
Oh, I see.
And I think, especially with these models, open source, Anthropic, you have OpenAI and a few others. There's so much money being poured to it, but the value is still on how do you apply it.
Yes.
And they're working on sort of the core technology, almost working on the, let's say, on they're kind of like building the AWS actually holds more value to it, but the enabler for all of these new applications to arrive. There's some things that you can do with GPT directly and whatnot and create with them. But I do think at some point, the value of just the model itself that's what they're striving for. It's going to become so cheap to use it, and the cost is going to go so much down, and the value, again, will become a lot more. The value that you can extract from AI, it's going to come, especially for companies, it's going to come from good user experience, good design. How do you apply it?
How do you apply? What problems are you solving with it?
What problems are you solving with it instead of the model itself? Because they're coming up, and then OpenAI launches something, everyone was like, loses their minds, and then Anthropic in the next month launches something a little bit better, and then DeepSeek comes and says, we spent nothing to do this, haha. And then people are like, that's a lie, and then they start and Microsoft spending a lot of money on it, on CapEx, was looking at the shareholder sort of investment, the shareholder sort of reports from Microsoft, Meta. There's no mention of DeepSeek. They're just brushing it out. I think Zuckerberg said that it was like DeepSeek validated our approach to open source, that we're right all the time and stuff. And then Microsoft Satya, I think he brushed it away and saying like, yeah, it's not how it works. If you make it cheaper, people are just going to use more and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, they're going to spend money until they figure it out what the application, the best application for them to use. And they're going to keep on this rate. There's so much money invested already on it that they're not going to go and say, yeah, we're wrong. Let's fire all these people, or let's see what they're doing, their approach. They're just going to keep going at it. And I think the race is going to go to who can produce the most efficient one, the cheapest one, and that's going to get applied to enable a lot of people to create a lot of cool things for a lot less.
Yes.
because it's cheap, but it could be cheaper.
Are you guys looking, or what do you think about the whole VR, AR space? Have you guys experimented with that? Have you guys thought about using that technology for solving a particular problem?
We had a couple ideas on our backlog on it.
You think it's too early?
We like a lot the space. We like gaming. We like
Yeah.
gaming, VR, AR. We love it. I think it's a little bit early in terms of, I get seasick from using it, for example.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
So I can't use the VR for too long, or the Apple goggles, or whatever it is. I get seasick
Yeah.
very easily, and I was like, oh, okay, so that can't replace first of all, can't replace a phone because it looks horrendous. I can't walk on the street with that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Or it can't replace a monitor, right? You get it doesn't work
it's
for me.
pretty heavy on the face as well, right? With the Apple Vision Pro and stuff.
Yeah.
Regardless of the quality and all of that, it's just something that you're not going to wear for a long period of time.
Yeah, and then, but we would love to play with it. There's a couple of other ones. I tested the Meta Ray-Ban. I thought it was really cool.
Okay.
In Sydney, I went to the expensive, if you want to have the prescription glasses and stuff. Expensive as in $100, $150, which is still glasses.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's cool. It has the feature of the AI built in and stuff. There's a new one. I forgot the name of it. That they write on they use the AR, and then they have like directions on projected onto the glass, or
I see.
translation and stuff, and there's audio feedback. I thought it was a really cool application.
Right.
But it needs to be something like, I don't know.
The way I see it, man, and the spaces, I think like you said exactly, I have the same thoughts in terms of when it comes to consumer facing for, things like gaming or just everyday use. I think it's just, right now all the products out there are just for early adopters like probably us that love tech and all of that kind of stuff. But the truth, one of the things that excite me, for example, is the potential use in industries like healthcare, right? To be able to, as a doctor, I'm just riffing here, by the way. I didn't think of this. I'm just riffing here, but I'm just thinking out loud. The capacity for somebody to pop some glasses on, a doctor, pop some glasses on and look at a particular patient's, I don't know, a wound or whatever, and this being able to help the doctor identify any particular thing, that hooked up to, of course, an AI which can process hundreds of thousands of photos. I'm pretty sure you've seen that they created this one where he goes through a bunch of different things and can diagnose right away on the spot. That's the sort of use I think like it would be incredible. And of course, you multiply that to any sort of industries where you have humans diagnosing things or problems, or even looking at an electric board, things like that can, you wear this for a moment for a particular task, you take that off, whatever. Although for doctors, they will probably have to wear it all the time. But you know what I mean? Like these type of industries are potentially incredible avenues for testing this sort of technology.
Yeah, we had one idea in the backlog that was something like that with the Vision Pro for dentists. So they will be able to see the 3D model because they scan it. A few of the high-end dentists, they will scan your mouth and then build a model of it. Yeah. And then they'll be able to use the model while they're looking at your mouth to see what tooth is on, or what is the issue.
Have a full reference sort of thing.
Because a lot of times they're sitting down and they're doing this. They're looking back on the monitor. So at least here it's projected, or it can even overlay on top of your teeth if you the person's tooth if they want to, and to work on it. But I think the form factor is it's an issue, like having that in your face and all the time, and the pass through is pretty good on the Vision Pro. But also, if there is a splash, that they're gonna need to wipe it.
That's true. There's so many variables as a physical product that you have to deal with. Yeah, that's true. But man, it's again
but it's pretty cool, especially with AI. It would be super cool.
Yeah, exactly. And for gaming, I'm pretty sure you're into gaming as well. For gaming gigs like us, it was just so cool, like to be able. Again, for me as well, I've gone and played VR gaming and all of that, and it's cool, but you can't do that for a long period of time. It's just you get really, really disorientated really quickly. Yeah. But anyway, I'm excited that that's gonna happen. I'm pretty sure we're gonna. It's cool that we can see we've seen pre-internet and now we're seeing this. Don't you think that's awesome?
Yeah, I think
Because
it's
there's
awesome.
people, the kids today, they grab with a screen like how it is. This is normal. We saw the whole thing happen, and I think that's incredible to have been able to experience that, the whole thing, right? From the like,
Dial-up internet.
dial-up internet and wonky looking interfaces.
Portals. You go to American Online portal, and then it's
Yeah. It's pretty cool,
all
man.
of the news and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about. Oh, first of all, I want to talk about the future of RYFT. So you talked about these new products that you are working on. Anything else that you guys are looking?
So right now we have Jane, we have Harem, that is a Jane for the medical space.
Yeah.
And then also that is again one that is, we didn't, clinics started downloading Jane and using it, and then we were like, oh, wait a second, it wasn't designed for them. Where are they using it?
Oh, right, I see.
And then call them and it's like, do you mind if I come along and take a look at how you're working and what is your workflow, or how are you using it? And they go there and they go, oh, we can design a much better product made for you.
Specifically tailored for them and the use case.
Which a lot of more integrations. It needs to be a significantly different product. But I think when you find some signal of the need being there, people hack their way through
yes,
incorporating that into a workflow. And that's what I think it's a really good signal of, all right, there's something here that we should investigate further. So we're spinning off another brand for that, because it needs to be a different brand, a different positioning, a different sales strategy, everything. Different UI, it's different product.
Yeah.
Different workflow. So we're going to have the both of them. They are currently the same product, the same company. They're just Jane now. And this other one that is in the US on the prop tech space, that one has a co-founder already that has deep domain expertise into sort of the workflows they were building.
Right.
That one is one, as I mentioned, it would be impossible for us from the outside to figure it out. That
he has all that domain knowledge and stuff.
If you went to do a design interview, a design research, and asking people about that problem, they would just say, that's how we do things. It's a little bit annoying, but that's fine.
Right.
And also because there's a lot of people currently that are incentivized for those inefficiencies to exist.
That's true. That's a very good point, actually. We didn't talk about that, but that some of those inefficiencies actually oftentimes capitalized by other things. Yes.
Yeah. So those three are focused right now, and then we have a couple more experiments. They're still super early stage, but more for the second half of the year. We'll see. A couple more. We should get to a few more, because for Jane, we're looking at about 10 to get into Jane. So 10 to 1. So we should ramp up those numbers in order for us to get something else by the end of the year. Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome to hear that. And can't wait to see the amazing things that RYFT is going to come back with. I'm going to throw, after we finish this podcast, I'm going to throw a bunch of ideas at you, because I love doing that. And you're going to go like, nope. But I have so many ideas that I don't have enough time and bandwidth to do. But I'm like, man, this will be an amazing company. So I'm going to throw them at you.
Yeah, awesome.
Before we finish, I have two more things to do. Advice for any product designers today. You've been through this journey for a long time. You're very experienced. What do you think if a product designer is looking at this, is listening to this podcast, watching this video? What are some of those advices, or a piece of advice rather, that you would like to give to a young designer, somebody who's studying, somebody who wants to potentially do the very cool work that you're doing today?
Focus on the craft. Craft is a loaded term, but on the fundamentals, right? So what is design? Why do we use design? Where does it come from? What are the good references in the past? What people did?
Learn the skill set first.
The print. Look at the print. Look at the album covers. Look at all of sort of the history of the beginning of the web. Why is it that exists? And learn a little bit about code, because architects need to understand materials to be able to design a house. So why don't designers need to? We design in code, so why don't we understand a little bit more? It never made sense to me that people are like, we shouldn't learn how to code. It was like, yeah, maybe not to be a full-time developer, but you should understand what materials you're using.
Yeah. Especially around sometimes feasibility. I mean, you see a lot of designers make that mistake where they design the most beautiful UI, right? It's like everything glows and they sound the most crazy like animations. Like, mate, nobody's building that. Like, no developer is building that, especially given the amount of time and resources it would take. It's just not adding. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times you see a lot of designers falling into that trap as well. Like, and if you knew about, hey, how long would it take to potentially build this? Like, do we even have, the technology that we use? Whatever, is this a native app or is this, all these kind of things. So that's great advice.
Yeah, and then focusing on that a lot. Focus on the medium that we design for, that you design for. It might be that it's a graphic designer that's watching, but learn about fundamentals of design and more of the fundamentals of how do you put together a screen and typography and stuff than the tools itself. I think the tools, we might see the tools change over time.
Yeah.
And you can always learn a new tool and learn how to leverage artificial intelligence in your workflow. Like, there's a lot of, can use an example. Today, my partner was talking about a friend of hers got a job into an e-commerce company. She's not a designer, but she got a task to do that requires UX flow breakdowns and critique of the e-commerce and stuff. And she was desperate, sending text to my wife. She's like, "Can you help me? I don't know where to start this design thing and stuff." And I was like, ask her to pay $20 for a ChatGPT subscription.
Take a screenshot of it.
She can grab a link of the website, post there, and say, "Can you do a breakdown of the?" It's something, right? It might not be 100% correct, but even taking the screenshots,
yeah.
And you're able to come up, or even you can grab the task, put it there, and say, "How do I start this?"
Yeah.
This is the context, and as it gets better, the more context they give, and you can start
learning how to prompt is a great one to start with, because then that helps you and that sets you up to different tasks as well, depending on what you want. So creating a good prompt is really good.
Yeah, but understanding how to use the AI coding tools, understanding how to use the AI design tools, how to incorporate AI into your workflow, not only for research scripts. Like, a lot of times we just take a screenshot on Figma, post it, and say, "How do I?" This is the context. This is the I did this for Jane. Posted a screenshot of the strategy of the business strategy. In the concept, post a screenshot of the main flows. It's like, "Can you write a test script for me with X questions? This is the ICP. This is everything, so I can do a test."
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
A couple of changes here and there. Yeah, that's it. Like, before, how long would it take? Sometimes I've seen people spending 1, 2, 3 days doing
100%. Yeah, we use it a lot as well. So yeah, that's a good piece of advice. And on just following up on that, because you also have your entrepreneurship side. Any advice for entrepreneurs? They have an idea, they want to validate it, they want to start into this journey. Any advice for them?
Advice for entrepreneurs, I think will be have fun and don't be afraid to start right now, because tomorrow might be too late. I think we're in the best time to build things cheap, fast, than any other era in society, probably.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of value to capture. It might be that once we have artificial general intelligence or even something beyond that disappears, right? It's not enough value to capture anymore, and we change society to a different setup, or it's probably another podcast. It's a lot of thinking about what might happen, right? And the implications of that. But right now, I think we have a good 5, 10, and maybe 15, 20 years to build. And I think if you focus on distribution, on how to build something people want that solves a problem, and get as many as people you can to pay as much and as often they can for that thing, is what you should do. Like, find what people want, get to them fast, quickly, in a way that they can afford, in a way that they can pay for a long time.
Yeah.
Or that they can deliver value to them, and they can pay back for that value. And that's that's the time is now. It's one of the reasons why we decided to do a venture studio. We thought that startups take a long time to build, and we thought if we start one AI company, we might have one shot at it, maybe two in 10 years, until we try something. They need to pivot a bunch of times and maybe it doesn't work. And then you need to start something else. And then you don't know how things are changed. And for us, it's like with a venture studio, we can start identify many opportunities and try a few of them. So it can be fast and kill startups or scale them. And so it can have more shots at creating something of value over this next big wave that AI will bring. But need to start now.
Yes, that's a great piece of advice. And on top of that, what I would like to add is just don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Because that's just part of the process. First of all, actually, let me do this because I usually do this with most of my guests, which is I have this soundboard right here. And this has a bunch of questions, random questions.
Oh, that's cool.
So just tap anything you feel like and then let's see what happens. If you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would it be and why?
Do I need to repeat the question or people can hear it?
No, people can hear it.
It's hooked up. Yeah.
It's all hooked up. Right there.
Cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's sick. What a sick setup. That's very cool. Japan.
Ah, yes. That's my
So nice.
So nice.
One of my favorite trips ever.
Yes.
Another one?
Yeah, let's try another one.
This is fun.
Let's play a game. Tell us 3 things about yourself. 1 true and 2 false.
1 true, 3 false.
And I'll try to guess which one is the...
1 true, 3 false or 2 false? 2 false.
2 false and 1 true.
I play clarinet in an orchestra. I kick with my left foot. And I play tennis growing up.
Shit, okay. You play football with your left foot? That's the truth. That's true.
No.
That's not true?
Nah.
God damn it.
It's the clarinet.
It's the clarinet.
Yeah.
You played on orchestra.
Yeah, growing up, yeah.
Damn. That's awesome. Cool.
Couple of years.
All right, let's do one more. What's a fear you've overcome that you're proud of?
Not being able to take care of my parents.
Okay. Are they in Brazil?
They're in Brazil, yeah. We grew up very simple. And you're from Latin America, you know, that we have a different mindset with our parents. For me, for some reason, they are they're kind of, I always like taking care of them and trying to take care of them and being able to provide for them if they need to. And I was scared of like if something happens with my mom or my dad and I don't get able to afford a hospital or healthcare, or can I get someone to take care of them or something like that? I have a younger brother, but it's in a different situation. But now we're not ultra wealthy or anything or super rich, but I am confident that with the skills that I have and with the successes that we had and I will be able to take care of them until they.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you want to do one more?
Yeah, this is fun. We could keep doing this, right?
If you could relive one moment in your life exactly as it happened, which moment would it be?
My wedding.
Your wedding?
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting. So where was your wedding?
It was in Ilhabela in Brazil.
Is your wife Brazilian? Of course,
She's Brazilian, yeah. I remember a lot of it, but I wish I could remember more.
What was it about your wedding that you want to relive? Like, what was the core? If you could describe it in one moment, let's say for me, when I got married, one of the things that was more beautiful was that it felt like a celebration of love. Like it felt like so intimate. I actually didn't think about the people that was there. I just felt like I was happy that through all the things that we went, like that moment culminated in a celebration instead of all the pain that we went through, struggling here in New Zealand, all those kinds of things. That was the thing that highlight. That was that one thing that you can highlight.
We got married on a boat, a schooner. Do you call it schooner in English? Does it make sense? It's a large boat, so like a events boat. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
We didn't have a lot of people there, but I remember I was so worried about the guests and are people sick or not people sick, and
oh right, because of the seasick part.
Yeah, and then is everyone okay? And it's like that. There are moments like I remember my wife's house, but I remember after the ceremony, the party, I was so worried about other things that I don't remember enjoying the party as much as like we ate there and jumped into the ocean. And it was nice, but I don't have a lot of recollection of that. Like you're so into everyone's okay and stuff, and we do our bit and then drink a little bit more and stuff. So I wish that part of, or even being able to just there was a moment that me and my wife went to the top of the boat and we looked back to see everyone having fun and stuff. So I wish I would go back to that and relive it, so I can have that mental picture again, a little bit sharper probably this time.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You want to do one more, or shall we move on?
I can do one more. That's cool. Are they random, or do you know which one they are?
No, I mean, I put an emoji, but to be honest, I don't even remember.
If you could swap lives with any fictional character for a week, who would it be and why?
Oof. Fictional character, if you could swap life.
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one. Are you a superhero guy?
I am a superhero guy. I was going to say Dr. Manhattan.
There you go. That's a good one right there.
Dr. Manhattan was
there
sick.
You go.
Yeah.
So that's the soundboard idea that you use. And then I also do this. Hi, ChatGPT. I'm here with Lucas Coelho. He's a product designer and he runs a venture studio. He's here in the podcast with me. Would you like to ask him a question?
Amazing. Lucas Coelho, welcome to the Melding Muse. You're a product designer and the mind behind the Venture Studio, which I know is shaping some really exciting projects. I'm stoked to have you on the show. To kick things off, let's talk about your journey. What first sparked your passion for product design, and how did that lead you to building Venture Studio?
I think what got me into design, what still drives me to build things, is the fact that you can create something and people interact with it. It's insane.
Yes.
Fast.
The fact that you can create something and people are using that in their everyday life as well.
It's the same from flyers. You create a flyer or a thing when you're growing up and you show people and they have a reaction or they have a feedback and stuff. Is awesome. And you can do things. You can grab where you did it when you print it and stuff. And now online you can create things and people interact with it. And then they have a problem and then you solve that problem. To me, like rendering things into reality is insane.
Right.
So
amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
Amazing, man. Last thing I want to ask you, because you probably do a lot of stuff. Your mental game has to be sharp to be able to make the right decisions. Anything you do physically to keep yourself active, to keep your mind sharp, to keep your physical body healthy, all of that kind of stuff?
Yes. I'm very... This will be probably another... This is a question.
I saw you wearing that Aura ring, so that's why I'm like, this guy.
Yeah, this is a question that I'm like, my wife, if she was here, she would be like, oh Lord, here we go. I'm very into that. I used to be into like the biohacking and precision health medicine, sort of a lot of stuff. So I have tracked my DNA, and then I know the risks.
Yes.
And then I had a protocol that I used to go to a clinic called Edson Clinic. That is a precision medicine clinic. Now I just chat with my GP about it. So I have a couple of things that I like to track every 3 months in terms of blood work and stuff.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I like sleep is very important.
Yeah.
So the Aura ring, I used to have a lot of trouble sleeping. I still kind of have, so I need to have a ultra full on like ritual. I need to the lights of the house needs to be dimmed, and I need to put my phone away, and it's in a drawer. Otherwise, if I get any sort of like trigger before going to sleep, then it's see you at 3 a.m. It's hard for me to close my eyes. So I had to take a few supplements. Exercise a lot, sleep, and food. Nothing too rigid or too complex right now, but I need, for me, especially sleep and exercise. If I don't exercise close to or every day, I get a little bit insufferable, because then I have like too much energy to pester my wife with stuff or bring that into not a great energy into work and stuff. But working out, going to the gym, or playing the pickleball or running, sometimes both at the same day, and cycling, road cycling. So I need to spend quite a bit of that.
Yeah, and that also helps
energy.
you to clean mentally as well. Like, do you use that as, you know, to think about things?
Sauna.
I use it for sauna. Yeah, cold plunge. Do you do cold plunge at any point? Like contrast therapy.
I do have sauna in the bathtub set up at home. Yes.
Nice.
The problem is I hate cold water, so I only use the cold plunge. Like I went for a long run,
Right.
and then I just for a recovery
For a
sake.
recovery part, yeah. For
And then I do the
information
sauna and go there, and then
Do you have a sauna at home?
Yeah, I have an infrared one. Yeah,
Damn, that's awesome.
and then that's when I use it. Otherwise, I use the sauna. I try to use the sauna at least twice a week.
Nice. That's pretty cool. That's it, man. I mean, thank you for coming over. Is there anything you don't want to talk about that we didn't cover? We've already done 2 hours, so I don't want to take a lot of your time.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Do you have anything else that you want to cover?
No, I think we covered. I mean, all the stuff that I had here, we covered, and I think it's just I like to keep it open for another episode down the line. You know, when you come back, we talk about more things. We talk about health and metal music and all that kind of stuff. We grew up in
metal music would be awesome.
Yeah,
It's very rare. Do you have a lot of metal friends? I don't have a lot of metal friends.
Yes, but that's
because you
mainly
play on the band.
Because
Yeah.
I play on a band, I do. I must say, a lot of the Brazilian people I know are metalheads. So as soon as I know someone is Brazilian,
That is true.
I know they like metal music. And like I mentioned to you, funny enough, when we used to play and we had music out there, most of the traffic and most of the listenings, if I check online, I'll show you after this, top listening countries for our music was Russia and Brazil. The rest is like US,
Especially if it's a new metal, groove metal, Brazil.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything that the crowd goes,
Yeah. Because he's like groove, you know.
so good.
So anyway, we'll talk about metal after this. I don't, you know, we can just keep talking after this. Just need to cut the podcast. But thank you, man, for coming through. Super interesting, as I thought it was gonna be. Even though we meet for the first time, but it was super fun to have you here. I actually have a present for you.
Oh.
I started making these. I'm an artist as well, so like yourself, I make things. So I made these custom painted these t-shirts myself.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like to keep like sometimes to stop from fucking being on the screen all day. So I just go out there and paint these. So I have these 3 in different colors. They have a lot of message in the back, but one of them is for you. You decide which one you want.
I'll get the black one.
You get the black?
Yeah.
There you go.
I wear all colors as long as they're black.
There you go.
That's awesome.
There you go. That's for you. I only get them for the guests. So, and I give you another little pin here as well. But yeah, that's just for you. Have a look. Paint them myself. There's also like a little print.
So you have a screening set up here.
I did it myself. I made it. Like I built it.
The stencil and stuff.
Yeah. I just built a little press as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I actually showed you the bar. I have a bar that I built outside. So I know a little bit about carpentry. And they all each come, like you see that one there, that kind of move. So I just keep them as unique as possible. Right? So each one of them have something quite unique about them.
Man, this is pretty sick. Awesome, thank you.
And that's you right there. You are an undeniable person. Super talented. That's why I give them to my guests.
Such a kind.
Thank you very much, man. So everybody who listened to this podcast, thank you for tuning in. Just remember to follow Lucas, follow the amazing project that he's working on. And of course, get inspired by people like him. Go out there, build something, create amazing products. Thank you very much. Remember to drink water and exercise, and peace.
Welcome to the next level.
Thank you for watching this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed the show, I'll leave you another episode here. And if you'd like to support us, visit themeldingmuse.com. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.